Hence, the reason why we can't find the meaning of life is that we assume that there is one to begin with. There is no meaning to all of this. Meaning is just connection to what is. The trunk is always here and now, and everything branches out from it. When you say, I want to find my purpose, or why am I here, this implies two things. When I say I have to find my purpose, which is what a lot of 18-year-olds do when they come out of high school, it implies future. Now, some people may subconsciously adapt and become present, then at the age of 50 joke about, I still haven't found my purpose. But some other people take it literally. They think subconsciously, and it manifests consciously in the way they speak and their actions, that they have to find a purpose. But here's the thing. Purpose implies future. So when you put that pressure on an 18-year-old to decide what he wants to do with life, that's just not possible. Because he can't know what he wants to do in the future. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the sense that he has no idea who he's going to be in the future, what he's going to like. All he can do is find out what you want to do right now. So when you do find out what you want to do in the future, it's not what you want to do in the future, it's what you want to do now. And then, if you really want to do it, if you're driven and every cell of your body blossoms with life at that idea, and soon you realize the only way you can do it is from the standpoint of now. You can imagine what it'll be like. But most of the time, people who fantasize about the result are in a sense in a state of fantasism. They are fantasizing what it's going to be like in the future, and they are getting all euphoric over when I get famous, or when I get rich, or when I get a life partner, or once I get out of university, or once I get that job, or once I finish this assignment, I'm gonna do it. You see, always from a place of seeking salvation in the future to save them from the present moment. This might occur in places when suffering is immense, such as during famine or war, we call that hope. But most of the fairly well-off people suffer from this affliction even more than those in extreme poverty and suffering. Besides, those in extreme poverty have not the time to conjure up problems and complain about them. To them, all it is a solution to be dealt with, or rather a situation to be dealt with, excuse me. Why turn the situation into a problem? They don't have time to complain about it. And so all problems are inventions, creations, hallucinations of the human mind. Now, back to living in the future. Once they finish that assignment, once they finally get to the place where they want to get, the drive is lost because of the very nature of fantasies. Fantasies imply a future perfect moment, which in turn imply that the present moment is imperfect, and that I don't want to, and that I want to escape it, that I can't take it anymore. And hence, when you are always in the future, when you dwell, your resting place is in the future instead of the now, you find you can't focus, you can't pay attention, your mind wanders, but ultimately you don't enjoy what you're doing. Every time you do enjoy what you're doing, you realize that you're in the moment, and you're here, grounded, and your mind is not anywhere else. If you fantasize about the future and you feel good about the future, well, you're doing it from now, from the standpoint of now. And so the only thing that exists is now. It's always going to exist. Now is the only time that exists. When you think about the past, in the past, you were in now, in the past. And all your life, you've always been in now. Has there ever been a single point in your life when it's not now? It's always been now. You think about the future from now, the past from now, etc. I'm not saying the future is useless and pointless and only causes problems. I'm saying that we have a tendency to live in the future and the past, which causes severe dysfunction in our society. The future is good if you want to know where you want to get, but that's all. Using it to escape the present moment because it is unsatisfactory is the same as using drugs or alcohol because it numbs the present moment and you become in the future, or you merely numb the present moment through drugs and alcohol, for example. The issue of this is that when the drug wears out, then you realize that all you're left with is absolutely nothing, and you've been sitting here exactly where you were before you started. But this raises a very interesting point, because when you are on drugs and you are in a state of ecstasy, you didn't have to accomplish anything. It's not like you won $1 million, or you got that job, or you fell in love. You didn't do anything. You were experiencing extreme ecstasy without really achieving anything material. And this is very interesting because doesn't that mean that you don't need any accomplishments? Or that you don't have to seek salvation in the future to be happy now? Most people don't know how to be happy right now. They can't control their mind, they can't control their body, they can't control their well-being, or their emotions, or their thoughts. They can't control anything. It's like someone whose hands moves up and down, up and down, up and down compulsively. And you're like, damn, is he fidgeting? Why can't he control himself? Well, isn't that what your mind is doing? You can't stop your thoughts, can you? Try to stop your thoughts, go on. And you realize that trying to stop your thoughts is itself a thought, and that you can't do anything, and so you're stuck. But it's very interesting that drugs allow you to see that, hey, shit, I can be fucking happy without using anything. Or rather in the sense that without getting that job, I can be happy now. And so what if you didn't need drugs? What if you found a method, like the scientific method, what if you found a science in order to change your biology in a way and prime yourself to be happy eternally in a state of bliss and joy and happiness without the use of anything? Right? Some people call this neurohacking in the Western world. You take cold showers, you refrain from masturbation, you eat well, you sleep well, etc. But this is also the branch of yoga. You balance your body out. You achieve a state of balance. And soon you'll find, if you do this enough, that you'll feel like a child again. That you're really, really happy for no whatsoever reason at all. You know, you walk somewhere and then you walk past a tree or you walk past other people and you're like, damn, this is fascinating. This tree is beautiful. And you're just happy without really doing anything. And you might think, well, shit, that's lazy. That's being a lazy piece of shit. And you're like, no, I must be strict with my mind. I must be realistic. I must force myself to go to the gym at 4 p.m. every single day. And I must study 6 hours a day and I must work like a motherfucker. And there's two ways like this. One, you're like, I love the drive. I love the adventure. And the second one is I must. You come from a place of necessity. And so your mind is always really rigid. Always tense. And then you find that the first kind of people who do it because they enjoy it, they're really happy people. Because they do what they like to do. Because they're like, oh shit, this is what I like to do, let's do it. People like Gary Vee. And then most people try to be that when they are really not that, and they force themselves to be a certain way, and then they preach about it in an attempt to solidify their reality, to validate their reality, to draw people into their reality, because they are dissatisfied with the reality, and so they must make other people believe their reality. Yeah. And so they're all rigid. They're rigid. They take things personally. They have a huge ego. You know, it sucks. And they might externally, their ego might be confident, some of them, but they are living in a state of perpetual fear because they function by their ego, just like an animal. An animal in which its sole purpose, let's assume here that an animal's sole purpose is to survive, and so it goes through its entire life unconscious with the sole purpose of passing down its genes. Let's assume that. I can't say that because I don't know. I'm not an animal. But from the standpoint of science, that's what we get. But I wouldn't want to conclude anything. And so they have this final outcome in order to achieve. And so the same with humans. They have this final outcome they want to achieve. Grades, money, jobs, relationships, whatever. And so they go into a very rigid, I must get that, like an animal, I must reproduce, and they use whatever means. Some people are better in it, like pickup artists, or really smart people who can earn a lot of money. But they are still coming from the same point within, the same place within. Like the billionaire and the beggar. The beggar, the first thought in the morning is like, crap, how can I get money today? What am I gonna eat? The same thing with the billionaire. Even though he has $10 billion, he's like, crap, what do I do? How do I earn more money? Do I reinvest, etc., etc.? Some people do it because they enjoy it, because that's the game that they choose to play. But a lot of people, or like some don't, right? And then you see some beggars and they are in an absolute state of bliss. Or people like Buddha or yogis who really don't have anything material and they are extremely happy. And then some people who are not happy, who view life as a need. I need to get material wealth, I need to be respected, and then look down on everyone else. Might say, well, he's not really happy, he's just lying to himself. Because their ego, in essence, wants to preserve itself. And so he says that everyone else is unhappy, that my way is the best way. And all it does is reinforce your ego. And so back to the present moment. So the issue of this is when the drug wears out, then you realize that all you're left with is absolutely nothing, and you've been sitting here exactly where you were before you started. And sometimes you try to cling on to an experience, and when you don't have it, you're dissatisfied, and so you get high again. And hopefully you've been sitting there. You might have done some stupid shit while you were high. Hopefully you've been sitting there not doing anything. And we have such a disconnect with the present moment, hence culture is a mass hallucination. Because sometimes if you really look out into the city or wherever, when there's people, you start to see that they're all playing a big game that they have no idea they're playing. And sometimes you feel like an actor, and they're all just mindless creatures. Because frankly, most of us are. You can study human behavior just like how you can study a lab rat run into the wall whenever it's given a treat. As part of the conditioning process. Just as most of society are conditioned to be discriminatory against other races, perhaps subconsciously, to be always chasing for more, to run this entire big wheel of corporations, and hence corporate society. And as Bill Hicks said, life is like a ride. After some time, people might question, is any of this real? Some people have remembered and said, hey, don't worry, it's all a ride. What do we do with such people? Kill them, shut them up. I invested a lot of money into this ride. Look at my big bank account and my family and my status. I can't lose this ride. Hence unattachment, because when you derive pleasure and happiness from material wealth, when you lose it, it turns into suffering and misery. And so you desperately try to cling on to it. And so you are in a state of perpetual angst and fear of losing what you have, because once you lose it, then your happiness goes along with it. Except that it's not real happiness. That's something they told you was happiness. That's not real. Because our entire materialism stems from dissatisfaction and unhappiness and that hole within, that nothing can ever satisfy except temporarily through material means, which at the end of the day is ultimately transient and temporary, because when you die you take none of it with you. And so it's an absolutely stupid idea to base your existence off something that really doesn't really exist. It doesn't really exist. From the standpoint of now in the future, it's not gonna exist. It's not here. Think about it. 100 years ago, try to remember someone you knew. You might think about, well, I don't know, some famous figure. Or a few years, 100 years, you might think about Abraham Lincoln, or Steve Jobs, etc., or Jesus Christ, right? But no one knows who they are. We might know their name, but we don't know their personality. We don't know what they were like. Their experience lives on only in words. Hence, you're in the present because it's literally all that exists. And the present moment is all around and all surrounding, engulfing everything, like a point on a white sheet of paper. That is all that is present. Because everything is now, has always been now, will always be now, not only for humans, but for every single being out there in existence. Because there is nothing that is not now. Has there been ever a time when it's not now? It has always been now. So they try to escape the now as silly, because what could be more ridiculous and insane and banal than trying to escape whatever is? It is. Don't fight it. It just is. Why would you fight something that is? I mean, it is. Don't you get it? It is. The way it is. It is. Fighting it won't change anything. It still is. Even if you do, it still is, unless you change something. But when you are really present at times, you realize nothing needs to be changed.